Ah, family. We are told from the moment we are born that family is your ultimate safe haven. A beautiful, unconditional support system that will always have your back, catch you when you fall, and provide a warm hearth in a cold world. Just kidding. For millions of people, family is actually a psychological war zone where your deepest insecurities are weaponized against you over a dry turkey. Welcome back. Today, we are talking about a phenomenon that makes polite society extremely uncomfortable. Adults who completely cut off their toxic families, block their parents' phone numbers, walk away forever, and miraculously feel absolutely zero guilt about it. I know, it sounds scandalous, but strap in, because we're going to dissect the brutal psychological architecture of family estrangement, and exactly why walking away is sometimes the only way to survive. Let's look at our first scenario. We'll call this protagonist Sarah. Sarah is 32 years old, highly successful, and has spent 3 days baking an intricate artisanal pie for her family's holiday dinner. She arrives at her mother's house, hoping for a pleasant, mature conversation. But Sarah forgot one tiny detail. She is walking into a highly entrenched, narcissistic family system. Within 4 seconds of walking through the door, her mother criticizes her weight, ignores the pie, and asks why she isn't more like her brother Mark. Mark, by the way, is 35, currently unemployed, and brought a half-eaten bag of gas station chips to dinner. But Mark is the golden child. Sarah's mother graciously praises Mark for his incredible chip selection skills. Later, when the family dog throws up on the carpet, the mother somehow manages to blame Sarah's negative energy for the dog's indigestion. Let's do a quick psychological autopsy on what just happened. What Sarah is experiencing is called triangulation and scapegoating. In a narcissistic family dynamic, parents foster deep jealousy and resentment by identifying one favored child, the golden child, who can do no wrong, while another is designated as the family scapegoat. The scapegoat is a psychological dumping ground. Originating from an old biblical concept where a literal goat was forced to carry the sins of a village into the wilderness, the family scapegoat bears the burden of the family's deep-rooted dysfunction. The narcissist projects all of their own perceived negative traits onto this one child. Why? Because as long as Sarah is the problem, the rest of the family never has to look in the mirror and change. They pretend they are perfectly fine while convincing Sarah that she is fundamentally broken. Sarah finally realizes this, walks to her car, and blocks every single one of their numbers. So, Sarah has escaped. According to every Hallmark movie ever made, she should be weeping in an alleyway, crushed by the weight of abandoning her blood relatives. Except she isn't. She's sleeping for 8 uninterrupted hours for the first time in her adult life. Research actually shows that distancing yourself from toxic family members can lead to an immediate sense of relief, drastically improved sleep, and a massive reduction in symptoms of depression, anxiety, and trauma-related stress. When the abuse stops, the nervous system finally gets to exit fight or flight mode. But wait, a wild obstacle appears. It's a text from an extended relative, acting as a flying monkey for the mother. The text reads, "How could you do this to your mother? Blood is thicker than water. You only get one family." Ah, yes, the classic blood is thicker than water guilt trip. Because sharing 50% of your genetic code with someone obviously means you are legally obligated to endure emotional torture until the end of time. Let's give Aunt Karen a gold star for enabling abuse. Why do people try to weaponize guilt? Because guilt is a learned reflex, not an objective proof that you actually did something wrong. Cultural and societal expectations constantly compound this guilt, especially in collectivist cultures where familial loyalty is valued much higher than individual safety. But people who successfully cut off their families and feel zero guilt have realized a profound psychological truth. Love without safety is not love at all. They understand that real self-care isn't just taking bubble baths and lighting lavender candles, it's looking a toxic dynamic in the face and saying no. They have retrained their brains to recognize that walking away is not an act of cruelty, but a radical, necessary form of self-preservation. Let's introduce our next subject. David has been completely no contact with his emotionally abusive, narcissistic father for 3 years. David is currently sitting on his couch on Christmas Eve, looking at an old photograph and crying.
Aha! The guilt has finally caught up to him. He regrets his terrible, selfish decision and is going to call his father to beg for forgiveness. Right? Just kidding. You fell for it again. David isn't regretting his decision at all. He is experiencing something incredibly complex. He is grieving. When a person cuts off a toxic family, they are forced to do something called grieving an imagined future. David isn't crying because he misses the reality of his father screaming at him. He is mourning the loss of the loving, supportive parent he wished he had, and the realization that he is never going to get it. Grief does not equal regret. Children born into narcissistic families often suffer from severe developmental deficits and complex trauma. They grew up with a roof over their heads, but they weren't truly raised. They were neglected, lacking positive mirroring and emotional support. David's tears are simply him processing the grief of having to psychologically reparent himself. He allows himself to mourn the fantasy, which actually opens the door to deeper healing, allowing him to maintain his boundaries without a single ounce of shame. So how does one achieve this mythical state of zero guilt? Is it just a switch you flip in your brain? Not exactly. Let's look at our final scenario. Years pass. The estranged parent attempts to breach the perimeter. They leave a highly manipulative voicemail, crying, playing the victim, and attempting to use triangulation to make the adult child feel like a monster. In the past, this voicemail would have sent our protagonist into a massive panic attack, triggering a trauma response of fawning or freezing. But today, they listen to the voicemail, feel absolutely nothing, delete it, and go back to eating a sandwich. Total, unbothered peace. How did they get here? By replacing their biological family with a chosen family and seeking aggressive therapeutic support. Research published in 2022 showed that when people experiencing family estrangement attend group therapy with others going through the exact same thing, their feelings of shame and isolation plummet. Their psychological distress literally drops from moderate to mild, just by realizing they aren't alone. When you surround yourself with friends, therapists, and a chosen family who affirm that your choice was valid, the societal guilt completely evaporates. You realize that cutting ties isn't about revenge, and it isn't about hate. It is simply about healing. It is setting a new, unbreakable standard for how you expect to be treated as a human being. So, the next time someone tells you that you have to forgive a toxic family member because they're family, just remember, you are allowed to prioritize your own peace and safety first. You don't have to be the repository for someone else's dysfunction just because you share a bloodline. I don't really know why you enjoy traumatizing yourself by learning about narcissistic family dynamics, but I hope this helped. Have a happy day, and remember to block those numbers.